Let's go!
So tell me about yourself. I know that you are a multi-instrumentalist, and of course, mostly known for your piano playing. And to tell me your musical background.
Yeah, sure, man. I've been a pianist of some sort my whole life. I studied in conservatory for 12 years, so I have a lot of classical, you know, formal education. And I started playing in rock bands as well as jazz bands when I was maybe 13 or so.
Right.
I got in touch with Tom to start Silent Skies in 2017, which was I was right at the end of my university years, and he reached out to me completely out of the blue to start Silent Skies to make an album together. And in many ways, that changed my career trajectory quite a bit because I was studying to become a film composer, and that's what I got my degree in. And working with Tom kind of made my career take a sharp left turn towards rock and metal music. Silent Skies is neither rock nor metal, but through Tom, I got to know a lot of people, and I joined the band Redemption the same year, which is, a classic progressive metal sort of band. And ever since then, I've been mainly working for bands, doing keyboard playing, orchestrating, and producing for bands. And in the last couple of years, I've taken a turn back into media scoring with Tom, where in addition to our Silent Skies albums, we have a company, Silent Skies Productions, where we do a lot of video game scoring. So I've been doing a lot of that for the past couple of years.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, full-time musician. This is my life, for better or for worse. Not for better.
I mean, that was the goal, right? I was going to ask if that was still your goal to do film, but you kind of already answered that. So
yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, and we're also working with the company to work into actual proper work for film. We're doing our first feature film next year, and we're at any given time we're working on 3 to 5 games for Saber Interactive. So actually that's the biggest part of both of our business lives. Although Tom is best known for Evergrey, and I'm best known for whatever I'm known for. I have no idea. Maybe Pain of Salvation. I've been playing keyboards with them for the past couple of years, so maybe that's the thing I'm best known for at this point.
So between Pain of Salvation, and then you said you've been in Redemption since 2017?
Since 2017, yeah.
Okay, and which is the same time that Tom joined, right?
It is, yeah. His first album, Long Night Journey and Today, was pretty much my first album with the band, although I was essentially doing keyboard cameos. But the album that came out this year, I Am the Storm, was my first album doing all of the keyboard work, as well as co-producing and writing a couple songs.
Okay. Hell yeah, man. What is the, I don't want to say stressful, but what is the project that occupies your mind the most?
I would say that
the gaming stuff,
primarily Silent Skies, and pretty much I have 3 careers at the same time. I have my personal artistic outlets, and then I have media scoring, and then I have working with bands, which is a very, very different skill set and different way to use my time. I'd say that all of them are equally busy, but as far as like where my soul is, it's mainly with Silent Skies. That's pretty much where, when it comes time to really write the music that's close to me, that's self-expressive and introspective and all of these things. Silent Skies is the main outlet for that, as well as my band Lux Terminus, which is like a prog trio sort of thing, and then all of the like really crazy stuff gets funneled into there. But it's mainly Silent Skies at this point.
So is Tom part of the musical writing in Silent Skies, or is that mostly you, and then he just does his vocal stuff?
It's at this point it's actually quite split. For our first album, Satellites, it was a little bit more like I wrote the musical beds and then he wrote the vocals. It was more partitioned in that way. By this point, working on Dormant, we write together on Zoom. So we fire up a Zoom call and spend a few hours every day working on sessions together. And I would say that he does more than half of the vocals and I do more than half of the instrumental work, but we're constantly in each other's fields. You know, he's constantly working on musical ideas and helping with me with especially arrangements and production stuff. And I work a lot helping him refine lyrical choices and working on vocal melodies. So it's at this point it's a fully collaborative endeavor, which I think may surprise some people. I think in the digital remote age where you trade files a lot, it's quite common for someone to do something and then someone does something on top of it,
Right.
and you get this kind of piecemeal sort of aggregate of components thrown on top of each other. But we really work to create music that is so organically written from the ground up. The vocals are in at the very beginning. We don't throw vocals on at the end like a lot of metal bands do.
Right.
So because of that, we like to give the illusion that you're basically listening to two dudes sitting in the corner of your living room, you know, serenading you essentially. And the really intimate production and the really natural piano sounds where you can hear like the piano pedal going up and down and all that. That's all part of giving that appearance of us just being in your room playing for you.
Yeah. No, it's cool. Um, I didn't know of Silent Skies until fairly recently when I started getting the press emails about it, and so I
Mm-hmm.
checked it out, and I was like, love it. There's not a lot of that, especially with people in metal backgrounds and stuff. And for instance, like I'm a really massive Opeth fan, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
even though I love the heavier stuff and death metal stuff and all that, like I prefer when they're just soft and more mellow and the acoustic stuff, and his voice just shines through so beautifully. And the
Yeah,
same with
for
this.
sure.
As I was listening to Silent Skies, I was like, this is exactly like I would just chill in my room on a weekend and just put this on and just lay there. Like that's what I want. And I want more of that. So I love that you guys are doing
Yeah,
that.
that's very kind of you to say. And I too, as far as Opeth is concerned, I love all of it, but Damnation was my first favorite album
Right?
of theirs. So
Perfect.
yeah, I'm with you there. But I think a lot of metalheads, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them are very dynamic listeners. And I think a lot of metalheads like to hear music with light and shade, and they like to hear music with contrast. And they're not closed off to the softer realm of sides. As long as there's this certain emotional core
Mm-hmm.
that's going on. And I think they can connect with the melancholy and the darkness and the ambience, even if it's in a softer context.
Right.
And that's why, you know, a record like Damnation from Opeth or like maybe Anathema's stuff post 2010 resonates with a lot of metalheads because they can still feel that emotional core, even though, you know, not heavy. There's not a lot of distorted guitars and drums and stuff going on. So we do have a lot of metalheads come up to us and say, like, yeah, on paper, this is not at all the kind of thing I would get into, but it really connects with me.
Right.
So I suspect that's why.
um, so you didn't expect to get into, I guess, the band life, right? So how do you handle touring?
Well, I always had kind of planned from the beginning of actually thinking about my career. I always wanted to basically work be a stay-at-home studio musician.
Right.
And I spend most of my life in the studio, even as it is. But simultaneously, like I absolutely love live performance. I think performing live is where music really breathes. And I'm a big believer in music being a communal activity. Like when, as an artist, I don't feel like I'm talking at you.
Yeah.
I would really like if we have a conversation with our music.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that with records. And we like to, especially lyrically, invite the audience to ask questions. And, you know, if we propose an idea lyrically, we like for it to stimulate a conversation internally. But really, in terms of live performance, that's where you really get that like back and forth of sharing energy. So Mainly the gigs I've been doing the past couple of years have been with Pain of Salvation, but I absolutely love playing live, and it's just there's such an energy that you don't get otherwise. Like there's nothing like it. And I think especially post pandemic when people couldn't experience shows for a couple of years, and then they went back and experienced what they were missing for the last couple of years, it's like, oh yeah, this is the good stuff.
Right. Especially for,
Absolutely.
people like us that do love the live environment and go to shows constantly and all that, and then having that taken away for a couple of years, it was different for sure.
It's bizarre. It's super, super bizarre on both ends, because I'm a huge music fan as well as a musician, and I love going to shows. And it was always just such a big part of my ritual
Mm,
as someone who loves music. I love seeing bands of all varieties,
right.
and to not have that was so strange. And then a part of you kind of gets used to it, and you get complacent. All the bands do the live streams, and you sit on the couch with a bucket of popcorn watching your favorite band. Like, I mean, it's kind of nice, but then when you actually go back and you experience just the visceral power of a band cranking through the PA in front of you, it's like, yeah, there really is nothing like it.
Um, so you said earlier that you and Tom like to collaborate over Zoom. Do you guys ever get the chance to do it in person as well, or just or is like the whole writing and recording process basically long distance?
Everything is virtual. The only exception was actually for a game score. For we did the score for the game Dakar Desert Rally on PS5, and we wrote the main theme for that in person. And it was actually the first time we had composed something in person. And it was actually quite bizarre because we had already done two albums at that point. But it's it's kind of like we realize it's way more efficient to work in person. Like obviously, there's a reason why people write that way.
Right.
But I actually like the Zoom workflow quite a bit. Reason being that we have a certain amount of independence and a certain amount of our own workflows going on at the same time.
Mm,
And so, for instance, if Tom says, I would like to try a 16 bar instrumental section, maybe throw in some Moog synth stuff here and grow the section like a B section. I'll just, we'll both go on mute on Zoom. I'll disappear for half an hour and I'll start playing with the analog synths and I'll make it happen. And then we'll reconvene in half an hour and I can share what I did. It's a little harder to do that on Zoom because, I mean, in person, it's a lot harder because I can still go fuck off and do my thing. But, then Tom's sitting twiddling his thumbs in the corner while I work on it. And this way he can disappear into his own world and he can work on something else
right.
for half an hour. He can work on vocal melodies or refine lyrics. And then we can come back together and share what we've done. So it kind of maximizes our time because we have a 6 hour time difference. So really we have 4 to 5 productive hours together.
Yeah.
And so the least amount of time we can spend twiddling our thumbs while the other person does something, the better. So actually, Zoom has ended up being, in some ways, better than working together in person. And now, when I work in person with some collaborators, sometimes it feels a little bit like I wish I could just go do my own thing for half an hour and let them, work on whatever they're doing, but you can't.
Yeah.
So it's strange. But that's the 21st century way, I guess.
So you guys recently did some cover songs. How did those choices come?
We like to pick covers that people don't expect. That's really important to us. Like we asked our fans at some point to give a suggestion of songs they wanted us to cover, and all of them basically already sounded like us. Like, piano and vocals, ballad sort of songs. And
Right.
that's nice, but it's a lot more interesting for us to take a song like The Trooper that sounds nothing like what we do.
Just totally
And basically, well, what we're interested in doing is picking songs that have like an outward exterior that belies what lies within, that lies beneath. And in the case of the Trooper, people know it as, the quintessential 80s metal song,
Mhm.
you know, loud, proud, galloping, intense. But then underneath it, the lyrics are so sad. You don't always tell that when the way he sings it because he sings it so powerfully and he sounds like he's, mustering the call to arms.
Right.
But the actual words are like so tragic. So what we like doing with the song like the Trooper is getting in touch with that sad, tragic, melancholic, emotional essence. And then it's almost like we put a different set of clothing on the song.
Mhm.
Dress it up in different garments so that people can hear, maybe appreciate something within the song that they didn't notice before because they were so, maybe they're fixated on the rhythms or the way Iron Maiden plays it. But then if we played in a certain way, you can hear like what's actually going on emotionally, what's the story that they're telling. And through interpreting and through our own lens, and sometimes that involves changing chords slightly. Like the Bruce Springsteen cover Dancing in the Dark, I completely changed the chords to actually put it in a minor key. But that's another one of those songs that is so sad. And most people don't really realize that because it's such a bouncy, like synth pop song.
Yeah.
But man, that is a tragic song. So you just cast it, a little bit differently and people can appreciate what's going on there. And that's really fun for us. That's something that inspires us creatively rather than just, you take some piano ballad song that already exists and just replay it. It's like, it's not quite as interesting
Yeah.
of a creative exercise, I think.
Yeah, that's not very challenging. I like that you guys are deconstructing the songs and making it your own. It's like you might recognize some elements here and there, or obviously the lyrics, but overall, it's like it's almost a whole brand new song, and that's
Yeah,
that's being an artist right there.
exactly.
So I appreciate
And
that.
if we're gonna cover songs, that's the way we're gonna do it. And it goes back to our first album, Satellites, where we did the song "Here Comes the Rain Again" by Eurythmics,
Mhm.
which is another one of those songs that people who know it as a really bouncy '80s pop song. But it isn't. The '80s is full of songs like that, man. Just songs that are so sad, and you don't realize that because the convention of the time was to make songs that sounded really poppy and bouncy, and all the productions were so full of energy. But I, there are some sad people in that time. I gotta say, people were really dealing with shit. I guess it was such a pivotal time in popular culture, and people were really going through a lot of identity crises,
Right?
I suppose.
Yeah, it seems
But
like
I wasn't around, so I don't know.
it
I'm
seems like
speculating.
people kind of focus on like the grunge era as being, oh, that's when all the sad lyrics came in and all that. It's like actually no, a lot of it was in the '80s, and a lot of songs get covered from the '80s, and I mean like Depeche Mode, for instance, or New Order, or
Yeah,
artists
yeah.
like that. Or the Joy Division. It's like if you didn't know Joy Division and you heard them for the first time, you would think it was like some indie band from the 2000s. Like that's just how far
For
ahead they
sure.
were. Um, but like you said, the lyrical content was already there. It was just it got presented differently. So and then the whole emo thing
No,
happened. And
for sure. I mean, the presentation of a song is so important, and yeah, I was talking with someone yesterday who was telling me about how a good song is a good song, and if you have a good song, you can dress it in eight or nine different stylistic conventions, and it'll always work. If you have a great song, you can play it as a metal song or a true pop song or an electronic song or a folk song. It'll always work if the core is strong. So, I guess that's what we try to bring out with our versions.
do you have anything new coming up right now?
Well, with Silent Skies, we never stopped working, and while we were finishing up Dormant, we were also working on our fourth album. So we're always forward looking and always restless. Sometimes it's hard to actually pump the brakes and just let the end of the album cycle be and just take a moment. It's so easy to get fired up making an album and you just want to keep going. And, once the creative juices start flowing, sometimes it's very hard to stop them. And, sometimes you don't have to stop them. You can keep working, which is essentially what we've been doing. So I anticipate the next couple of years are going to be very productive for us creatively. But I also think that, and I hope that Dormant is a little bit of a watershed moment for us. I think it's the best presentation of what we do in every way. I think the songs have kind of matured to a point, and we learned a lot making the past two albums because really every album you make, if you're a conscientious artist, every album you get better, and every album you learn from what you did before, and you build on the foundations of what you've done, but you also have to be brave enough to question the foundations. And sometimes you lay the foundation for something and you can do it better, and you have to have the courage to kind of break down some of your conceived notions of how to do things.
Right.
And that's a big part of what happened on Dormant is we were rethinking a lot of elements of our style. Like we had never used any guitar before. And then we were thinking, why? Why did we close ourselves off to this? It so happens that I ended up playing almost all of the guitar. Tom played on the song Construct, and I played everything else, which was somewhat weird because he's been a guitar player for 30 years.
Right.
But whatever. But it's all these kind of things. Like I got really into hardware synthesizers, and I started doing a lot of things in the hardware realm, be it analog or Eurorack modular stuff, which is mostly digital but also hardware, and just exploring new ways of making music, new techniques, new workflows. And then in the process of doing that, you get so inspired. It's like it's a whole new universe. And there's so much more than 10 songs to say within this universe. And if there's one common thread to Silence Guys is that we always try to push the boundaries. And we're not too obsessed with the definition of what Silence Guys is. It's kind of like Opeth in a sense. We're
Right.
like Michael's not obsessed with what a notion of Opeth is that was defined 20 years ago. He always wants to push the preconceived notions of what does it mean to be Opeth,
Right.
right? And that's why he's become such a visionary, inspiring musician. I think even for people who don't love what he's done in the last 15 years, which I do, but even if you don't, like his bravery and willingness to challenge the norms is really, at least for me, very inspiring. So I think Silent Skies is whatever we do in the future. And sometimes I'm not entirely sure what we'll do in the future, but I know that it's going to be pushing the boundaries in some way.
Right. Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's good that you started with such like a basic bass. It's like vocals and piano. And from there you can go. You can take that anywhere. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how you guys grow along the way and incorporating new little things and
or big things. Who knows?
Big things, like orchestras.
The sky's the limit. Yeah, absolutely.
Are you going to be playing any shows? Have you played live together? Just with Silent Skies?
Silent Skies has never played live, actually. In fact, I would go as far as to say is I don't know if we've really played together very much, which is a strange idea. we had recorded some demos together in I think 2020, I want to say.
Okay.
We had recorded some demos together for stuff that we didn't end up ultimately using, but it is very different actually if you've never played with someone in person and then you do it all of a sudden. Like I feel like there are probably more bands now that are experiencing that than ever before, because like 25 years ago, of course you would play together. Like you would never do everything piecemeal and never play together as a band. But now, like in the digital age, it's super common for you to do a drum track and then send it over to your guitar player 200 miles away or whatever. So it's very odd to suddenly take that into the real realm of playing together in the same time and space. But, it is kind of intoxicating a little bit, and you do it, and you absolutely want to keep doing that more because that's when it feels like your music is actualized properly. So we definitely want to play live. We've wanted to play live for years, and kind of the challenge is that you want to play live the right way. I'm not really interested in, playing a 30-minute opening set for a power metal band or something. Like, you know,
Yeah.
why? That would be doing both the power metal band and us a disservice. So, we really want our live shows to be something unique and special, like how we try to make our albums to be. So it's a little bit tough to make that happen, but most definitely it is in the works. And hopefully we can do something in the States too, because with Tom being in Sweden and a lot of our contacts being in Sweden, it makes a lot of sense to play in Europe. But, I'd love to play the States. It's difficult to tour the States though, I gotta say.
Yeah. The
We did
musical
a US
style.
tour with Pain of Salvation last year, and I was like, it made very little logistical sense, I have to say. It was very bizarre. Like, you have to drive so far between each show that it's just so taxing, financially and also physically and emotionally. But, you know, to conquer the States is the dream of every band. So I
So
guess that's why we do it.
yeah, right. um, what is the next big game? All right, no, let me take it back. Is there a game franchise that you would like to score?
That I would like to score. Actually, we're under some strict NDAs right now, but there's some stuff we're working on right now that's kind of dream come true territory for me. But aside from that, I'd love to get in with like a company like BioWare and do something in their realm. Especially the Mass Effect scores changed my life, when I first heard them a long time ago. And I actually got into them before I ever played the game, which is funny. But they have a way of doing stories with a lot of ambition, and their stories are truly cinematic, and their worlds are truly cinematic. And I find that really interesting and exciting. And Bethesda is another one as well. That I think anything they do in their orbit would be a lot of fun to do. But we'll see what the future holds.
Are you a gamer as well?
Casual.
Casual.
I'm not a serious gamer. I've had my moments. To be honest, my current life, there's not that much time to get into games. So especially the kind of games that I like playing involve a lot of, commitment and effort. So, but my girlfriend is a huge gamer. So what I often end up doing is I just kind of watch her, and I usually can't watch her play through entire games. But, it's nice to get flavors of what's really happening in the industry. And I feel like I'm also able to observe what's happening on a technical level in the game because I'm not playing it. So, it's actually a plus to being more of a watcher than a player. But actually, I have to run.
You
I
got
have
another
a
interview?
1:30 interview to
Okay,
book
man.
today, so hate to cut it short, but I think I gotta bail at this point.
That's all good, man. I appreciate your time and thank you very much for talking to me. And I hope to listen to more soon.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. It's been great speaking to you. Hopefully, we can do it again sometime.
Absolutely, dude. Take care. Enjoy the next interview and have an awesome day.
Right on, man. Same to you. Take care.
See you.
Bye bye.